Good evening, everybody, and welcome again to The Sacred Life. Once again, I'm your host, David Baylor. It's good to see you all here again with me this evening. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the recent statement coming out of the Vatican on November 4th of Mater Populi Fidelis. I hope my Latin is good enough. Where in this, I don't know, there's been quite a lot of buzz about this statement since it came out, because much to everybody's surprise, or it seems to everybody, like much of the surprise of everybody on the internet, it seems anyway, the Vatican suggested that faithful Catholics should not use terms like Co-Redemptrix or Co-Mediatrix or Mediatrix of all graces for the Virgin Mary. And I would say I'm surprised, pleasantly so, by this. As an Orthodox Christian, I mean, I'm not one that's necessarily qualified to speak dogmatically. I mean, I should say I'm not at all qualified to speak dogmatically about things, but I excuse me. This kind of terminology seems to be outside of what you find in the patristic tradition, what you find in the tradition of the Orthodox Church, and kind of along the lines of what the Vatican has said concerning this, that there's a lot of danger that terms like this could lead to a lot of confusion. They could be understood in the wrong way. And, this is what we often see from Protestants misunderstanding both Catholic and Orthodox Mariology and taking these terms and running away with them. But then also, I think there's a lot of Catholics that I, as an Orthodox Christian, would look at what they say about the Most Holy Theotokos, the Blessed Virgin Mary, and say, okay, maybe this is going too far. Maybe you're making something out of your Marian doctrines that is not correct. Maybe you've done something here, and a great example of that would be the doctrine of the Immaculate Conception, for example. That's that's definitely, from an Orthodox perspective, that's definitely very, very incorrect. You could look at what's happened from an Orthodox perspective and say, oh, well, this is a positive motion on the part of the Vatican. Is this a step towards Rome returning to the apostolic faith? I'm skeptical that that's happening and that that's what's behind this. So I'm not gonna see this as any. I don't know. I'm not gonna see this as any kind of motion as that. I would expect there's probably something else behind it. But that's not. I'm not a Roman Catholic, so I'm not here to talk about that necessarily. Instead, I just thought, like, this gives us a good opportunity to kind of reflect on Marian doctrine, Marian dogma, and to point out maybe how there's some differences in the Orthodox perspective. And I thought it'd be especially interesting to for me, coming from a Mennonite background, to kind of reflect on all of this, because this is something. This is one of the major matters that I had to come to grips with and figure out, what am I going to do with this? I don't want to say figure out what, I don't want to say figure out, because that implies it's too much of like a rational process, or that my, how should I say, my opinions about things are somehow important, because they are not. But what I mean to say by that is, this is something that I had to wrestle with coming to the Orthodox Church, because obviously the Orthodox position is quite a lot different than what I would have grown up with. I would say as a Mennonite, I would say as a Mennonite that we never really talked about this at all. Mariology and the Most Blessed Theotokos never really played a role in our concept of Christianity. But there are some things that I think I think you make things challenging for yourself by excluding these things, because we'll get into that. But in Orthodoxy, the Orthodox Church really has never formally adopted or promoted the type of terms, again, the Co-Mediatrix, Co-Redemptrix, the terms like that the Vatican has suggested should no longer be used. The Orthodox Church has never really used those terms, although there might be similar seeming terms that are used in the Orthodox Church and Orthodox hymnody and so on. I'm not going to make a statement. I'm not going to make a statement here and say, "Oh, this is moving towards union with Rome." I think there's quite a lot that stands in the way of the Church of Rome coming back into communion with the Orthodox Church. I don't. Yeah, I'm just not holding out any kind of faith that that's a thing that's ever going to happen, short of I don't know, mass repentance. But anyway, I will leave that. I will leave that there for now. I don't want to yeah, get too sidetracked from the topic. So in the Orthodox Church, obviously we venerate the most blessed Theotokos. We venerate the Virgin Mary a lot. You can see I have an icon right here. I guess, and that's a good opportunity for me to once again point out. These are all my work. I am an iconographer. I'm an Orthodox iconographer, and do have the best blessing of my priest to be an iconographer and to sell iconography. And that is one of the primary ways that we support what we're doing here at The Sacred Life. So if you're interested in that, you can go and check out the link in the description. There's a 40% sale going on right now on all hand-painted iconography. So you could find something there on my website. If you like that, you could order it. If you don't see what you like, get in touch with me. I'd love to do a custom work. And of course, also becoming a channel member, that helps support us. Drop super chats, super thanks, things like that. Just show your support and to help us continue to grow. Yeah, and we're very grateful for all the help, all the support that you've shown us up to this point, helping us reach as far as we have, and we're excited about the future. So hopefully you all stick with us. Continue to give us your feedback. Let us know how we can improve. Let us know of things that you'd like to hear us talk about, and things like that. Anyway, getting back into the subject, I would say it's important to look at how the Church Fathers speak of the Virgin Mary. But then it's also important to understand exactly what's meant by that. And so, like, if we're looking at these titles of Co-Redemptrix, Co-Mediatrix, again, I would say I'm not going to be comfortable with the use of those terms. Those are never terms that I would use, or that I've really heard used in the Orthodox Church or by Orthodox Christians. And I'm generally familiar with Orthodox Christians being a little bit uncomfortable when Catholics use those terms. And like I said already, there's definitely a lot of instances where Roman Catholics take their devotion of Mary to a level that to Orthodox Christians seems inappropriate. And these terms kind of encompass a lot of that. So especially, like, one thing I wanted to look at before I get to the Fathers is just this idea of Mary as a co-mediatrix or as a mediator, because that's something that I think requires some nuance. Because there is, for example, in the Akathist hymn and in the Paraclesis, we might use terms such as unceasing mediator or mediator of salvation in reference to the blessed Theotokos. However, that's also not unique to Mary, because we'll also use similar terms. For example, we'll call St. John the Baptist, we'll refer to him in his Troparion as a mediator. And, we'll speak of saints as mediators, but it's important to nuance what we mean by that and what we don't mean by that. Because on the surface level, that might seem that we are standing in contradiction to the Bible. 1 Timothy 2:5, where St. Paul says that there's one mediator between God and men, the man Christ Jesus. And so then if we're calling somebody else mediator, then yeah, where are we going against Paul? But that's not what we're doing. What we would say, in the one hand, when we're talking about a mediator, the way we use it in those hymns and in referring to the saints and to the Theotokos, we're really talking about the concept of intercession. In the same sense that I don't know, like in pretty much exactly the same sense that you would kind of see somebody, like if you ask your friend to pray for you, then they're serving a kind of a mediation role. It's like you're asking them, can you go to God with this on my behalf? And we're saying, the saints do that for us. And by calling the Blessed Theotokos an unceasing mediator, that's what we're saying. We're saying that she's constantly praying for us. And in contrast to that, with what St. Paul is talking about in First Timothy, that refers more to the hypostatic union of, the hypostatic union as God-man, that is Christ. And this is what it means to, in that context, to say that he is the only mediator between God and man, because he is the hypostatic union. He is the God-man. Yeah, and so I think it's important to point out that distinction. That's a role that Christ plays uniquely. To be this, you could say, this divine human bridge. And there's no creature that can possibly share in this role. So in that sense, the Theotokos is absolutely not a co-mediatrix with Christ. And to use that kind of language, I think obscures the gospel, obscures important things about Christianity. And in the same way, to refer to her as Co-Redemptrix, there is a concept there. And I have a quote from St. Irenaeus. Well, I'm not going to read the quote. I'll just paraphrase it, where St. Irenaeus does refer to Mary as the cause of salvation through her obedience, reversing Eve's disobedience. And this highlights her instrumental cooperation with the will of God, but this is not co-equal, and so to call her a co-redemptrix is an error. It's confusing two different things. Is kind of what I would say about that. And in similar ways, we see like Saint Ephraim referring to her as the Ark of the New Covenant, Saint Ambrose praising her purity in her role in bearing the Redeemer, which is humble obedience within God's plan. Saint John of Damascus refers to her as honor and blessed above all, and as the one through whom the Savior comes to us, and as a powerful intercession. He says she alone stands between God and the whole human race. Saint Gregory Palamas refers to her as a mediator between God and men in a secondary sense, as the cause of what came before her, the champion of what came after her, and the agent of all things eternal. And this, really what is kind of contained in all of these statements is just kind of pointing to the Theotokos as an epitome of theosis, really. It's kind of, and that's kind of what I especially wanted to point to in this point. Where, like, if we're using terms like co-redemptrix, you can argue it's pointing towards a correct idea, but there again, the language is faulty, and I wouldn't be comfortable with the use of that language, because what Mary does is she's an example of our obedience, and I would say Mary is a picture to us of how salvation works, because she cooperates with the grace of God. She cooperates with the energies of God, with the work of God, and because of that, God is conceived within her, and she becomes the ark of salvation. She becomes the temple of the living God, because God dwells in her when she's carrying him in her womb. And in patristic theology and in Orthodox theology, we do see this as a picture of, you could say, how Christ is born in our own hearts, inside of us, inside of each of us. And of course, we see Mary also as a symbol of the church. And so all of these things, how should I say this? Yeah, I think the best way to kind of encapsulate what I'm trying to bring out with this is that there's on the one hand, with this like Co-Redemptrix language, co-redeemer language, something that's pointing to something that's important about the Theotokos that was like very much missing in my Anabaptist upbringing, my Mennonite upbringing, not having Mary as part of our theology. We really lose this sense that Mary's cooperation with the will of God is so central to the process of salvation. Christ isn't just like dumped out onto the world. Rather, it is through submission and obedience and cooperation. And this kind of signifies how our own salvation works. Like, it is this synergistic process, this process of cooperation with God's graces, with God's energies. And like, kind of like excising any kind of Mariology, any kind of proper Mariology from your theology obscures this, and I don't know, it opens the door for a lot of these weird soteriologies that people come up with. But we do have these symbols in the Bible, and the Theotokos is one of the most central ones. And so this is a way in which, like, we look at Mary as playing an important and central role in our redemption, but then also as a symbol of how we in turn embody that. And how do I want to say this? Like, how we in turn embody that, and also how God is born within ourselves, and that's an important concept as well. And then that's something that you'll find that kind of language in a lot of the early church fathers as well. So that's kind of a real brief rundown of what I had to say tonight. If this winds up being a shorter episode, that's fine. I just kind of wanted to respond, kind of wanted to react to this, to say something about it. I hope this is an opportunity. I want to take this as an opportunity to kind of like point to this Marian theology. Maybe this is a chance where we can help some Protestants, or help people who struggle with this Marian theology, struggle to understand it, to kind of better understand what we're getting at, but also to take the opportunity to point out, hey, we as Orthodox Christians often actually agree with Protestants that there are some very problematic things going on in Roman Catholicism with their Mariology, and their soteriology. We do agree, but we don't agree with all of the criticisms. We don't agree with how far Protestants have gone in reacting and responding to the errors that Rome has introduced. And so hopefully this is an opportunity for some of you to help kind of understand that. It's entirely possible, and probable even, that I've made some errors of my own in trying to discuss this. So what I would point to most of all is, I don't know, dig into this more deeply, see what the church actually has to say. Don't take my word on any of this. But hopefully it encourages you to search these things out more. And yeah. That's really all I have for tonight. There's not a lot of you watching right now. That seems to often be the case on Friday night. That's fine. If you are here and you have some questions that you'd like to drop, some comments or some thoughts you'd like to see me respond to, join in the conversation a little bit, I will give some time for that. But I'm fine to sign off and to keep this. To keep this short. Also, for those of you that are watching this, whether it be live, whether it be later, continue to provide your feedback. Give your thoughts on our content, what you'd like to see us talk about, what ways that we can improve. We'll be trying to work out a clear schedule, so it's easy for you to see what you want to tune into, what you want to see, things like that. Also, I'm curious to know from you, our audience, how, like, Do you like the schedule that I've been doing? Do you like the time slot that I've been doing these streams? Is there a different time slot that would work better for our audience? You know, would it work better to do it earlier? Would it work better to do it later, like we do our Thursday night streams at 9:30 to something like that suit people better? I'm just interested to hear from you all. Um, yeah, what you would prefer. At this point, we're still able to kind of adjust our time schedule a little bit. But I do want to work towards having a very clear and regular schedule that we'll stick to, so that people will know and can reliably tune in like reliably know when to tune in and things like that. So yeah, I'm very interested in that feedback from you all as well. So we do have some questions here. Orthodoxy Unfiltered asks, well, he makes the comment here, really. When I was a Protestant, the small paraclesis was hard to overcome, but I realized I was being a bit nitpicky about the language. I had to humble myself. Yeah, that's a very good point. I think a common problem that Protestants, especially those from an evangelical or Baptist background, run into when encountering, I guess you could say, Orthodox theology, Orthodox language, Orthodox hymnody, is being really set back by the language. Like you say, it can be really hard to overcome. Um, and a lot of this, like, I don't know, there's a big problem. I just saw like a Baptist preacher um, made a comment. I don't know, it just showed up in the timelines on one of my social media accounts, just talking about like showed a bunch of books that he was reading, studying Roman Catholic theology so that he could give a sermon this weekend about Roman Catholicism. And I'm just like, why? Why is this your sermon? And I've mentioned this before on stream. There's a local preacher near where I live, and I like the guy. He's a great guy, and I respect him and all. But back before my Orthodox days, I visited his church on occasion. There wasn't a single time that I was ever there where he didn't say something against Roman Catholics in his sermon. So I think this poisons the well for a lot of people. A lot of people have been so indoctrinated and like beat over the head with anti-Catholicism their entire lives that does set up a real challenge for a lot of people. That's part of my background as well. The Mennonites are the Mennonites in the Anabaptist tradition is historically very skeptical of anybody from the outside. A lot of that is because of the strong history of suffering and persecution that kind of led us to kind of, I don't know, isolating ourselves, becoming very insular in our communities and our theologies and so on. And that's I bet that's just kind of like an extreme example of a larger problem that kind of plagues the whole Western Christian world, is that people are so hyper polarized against each other that something like this, a lot of people have heard like vehemently anti-Catholic teaching growing up, and this just can just be hard. They've had it drilled into their head. It's like, this thing that the Catholics are saying is wrong, and here's why it's wrong, and so on and so on. And it can be difficult to understand how the Orthodox position is actually not identical, because a lot of times we're using some of the same language. Yeah, and then he continues to point out, for me, a lot of this was pride. I thought I knew better than the fathers. Once I considered that I could, in fact, be wrong, that was the end of my Protestantism. But that was really hard to come to. Yeah, I mean, I can actually relate to that a lot. I think that's a stream I'd like to do before too long, is kind of going into that process a lot. But it was really this, I don't know, this, I don't know, it's hard, especially again, pointing to this kind of evangelical and Protestant mindset, where you very much are taught that you have to have all the answers, and you have to figure everything out, and that the burden lies on you to read the Bible for yourself and to understand it, and to make decisions for yourself. I was talking about that on stream last night with Zach, how um, speaking with a friend of mine before I left and became Orthodox, and just telling him, like, I think it's actually virtuous for people to not want to figure everything out, and to not want to have the answers, and just do what they're told, and just be obedient and simple and all of those things. And this person was just like, oh no, I can't accept that. Like you shouldn't just accept what other people are telling you. And it's just like, there's a way in which that's right, but there's also a much bigger way in which that's wrong, because there's just so much biblical precedent for how much God loves a simple faith. And I think people will be judged according to what they've been given. So it's better for you to be faithful. Generally speaking, I mean, that opens a whole other can of worms. Yeah, I don't know if anybody else has any comments, any questions. I intended to have this a kind of a shorter stream tonight, mostly because I just kind of wanted to respond a little bit to current events, to the news, I guess you could call it, coming out of the Roman Catholic Church. Just give a little bit of my thoughts, but I also want to be very, very cautious when talking about Marian theology. In the same way that I'm probably not going to do a video anytime soon about Trinitarian theology, for example. It's something it's easy to make mistakes and to accidentally fall into I don't know, you could even say into a heresy if you're not careful about it. So I just wanted to give a real quick overview, and that's really all I feel like I'm qualified to do. So that's all I intended to do tonight. And like I said earlier, like, I probably even got some things wrong. So yeah, I thanks to all those that did tune in. Unfortunately, a lot of you are tuning in now that I'm planning to sign off, but I'll still give a little bit of time for Q&A if you're here. It doesn't even have to be about the topic if you have something else. Just again, remind everybody, would appreciate it if you would consider becoming a channel member. Our channel memberships are actually pretty cheap. That's a good way to help show us your support, show that you like what we're doing. Also, give your feedback. How do you like our content? How do you like this new kind of schedule we've been going to with the like the almost daily, pretty much daily content during the week? I do intend to not upload content on Saturdays and Sunday. I need a little bit of time to recover, and also want to respect the Lord's Day. And like I mentioned, I will be putting together a more definite schedule, and would like to publish that at the beginning of every week, so that people can see. Not everybody's interested in every topic, and I understand that. And I think it'd be nice for our audience to have that, where you can say, oh, I'm excited about this topic, so I want to make sure to tune in for that and ask my questions and so on. And also, again, I had the question for you guys, if you'd want to give some feedback, whether here in the live chat or in the comment section once this goes to video on demand. What do you think of our time slot? Do you like the 7:00 p.m. time slot? Does it work better for you if I do it later or if I do it earlier? Yeah, what do you think? Do you like the 9:30 time slot on Thursday? Like, the Thursday stream's not going to change because I got to work with other people's schedule for that. But do you like that if I would move to 9:30 for everything, or do you like it? Do you want it to stay at 7? Just want to know what's good for our audience. Yeah, and still leaving a little bit of time if there's some other questions that you have to come in. And while I'm waiting for that, just again, point you to the links in the comments, or the link in the video description. Check out my iconography. Again, this is all my actual hand-painted work I did myself. That's behind me in all of my streams when I'm sitting here. That's the best way to support us. Appreciate it if you go check it out. Order something off our website, commission, custom work, whatever it might be. I would love to do that for you, and it would really help us out here at the Sacred Life. Allow us to spend more time developing content and so on. Orthodox Unfiltered has another question for me here. It says, what's one aspect of Orthodox spirituality that you think most people completely misunderstand? That's a good question. I'd have to think about that. I mean, because there's lots, like I would say all of the aspects. I think I don't know. So my answer to this is probably biased by my own background, and that's probably going to be the case for everybody. But I think, like coming from my background, the thing that people are going to misunderstand the most is I guess you would call it the ritual of the Orthodox Church. And part of the reason for that is because in the communities that I come from, we're closely connected to the Old Order Amish, and there's a lot of people coming from the Old Order Amish. And the Amish religion is extremely rigid, extremely ritualized, even to the point of having um like a prayer book that they use that's in a language that they don't even speak. And they just read all the prayers and everything. And so because of that, there's a lot of skepticism of ritual. But I think I see that from a lot of Protestants as well. As they look at the liturgical life of the church, something like this behind me here, praying in front of the icons and the incense and candles and holy water, all the trappings of Orthodoxy. And of course, praying out of a prayer book, that's a big one for a lot of more evangelical Protestants. It's like, oh, you're not being honest, you're not being genuine, you're just reciting prayers out of a book, which is nonsense. That's definitely a stream I want to do sometime as well. But yeah, I would just say like the ritual life of Orthodoxy is, to me, that's the biggest one that I encounter that people really misunderstand. Steve W, thanks for your support. Appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for that. If you have any questions, if anybody else has any questions, if not, I'll be signing off here shortly. Oh, I guess I'll Steve, you did mention as a former Melkite Catholic, and now you're Antiochian Orthodox, and that's a little bit interesting to me. My godfather is actually from Lebanon, and through that, I've kind of learned a lot about the relationship between the Melkites and that's not the Melkites, it's the Marianites for them, but the Marianites and the Orthodox. But I'm under the impression, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that it's often the same with the Melkites, that there's just a lot of connections in the old country, at least between them. And like my godfather's mother was a Marianite and his wife was a Marianite. He was just explaining to me, it's like, no, in Lebanon, it's, if an Orthodox and a Marianite marry, then it's the church of the husband that will be their religion, I guess you could say. But I mean, it's different. How do I want to say this? It's different when you're living in a place of intense persecution. For us, it's pretty easy to see the differences. But when you're living surrounded by violent Muslims very often, then it's I don't know. I think it's a lot easier to love each other in a lot of ways. I don't know. I don't want to go too far with that, but yeah, it would be interesting. It would be interesting to talk about the history of that sometime. You do mention that the Melkites were Antiochian Orthodox until 1724. That'd be an interesting little bit of history to go into sometime as well. Yeah, I think that's all I have for tonight. I want to thank all you for tuning in. Once again, thank you all for your comments, your questions, and thanks again, Steve, for your donation. Appreciate it. Once again, remind anybody else, donations, super chats, all that's always appreciated, and especially please consider becoming a channel member. We are posting our all of our pre-recorded content up as members only, and then it will go public a week later. So, for example, you'll see there's a video up now if you are a channel member. Posted it on Wednesday. That is members only right now, and then I will it'll go public next Wednesday. But then on Wednesday, another pre-recorded video will go up, members only. And we'll continue to work out the benefits as yeah, we'll continue to work out the benefits as our membership grows. This question from from Orthodox Unfiltered, I know it's not directed at me, but I just thought that's interesting. He says, so there was veneration. He's talking about the Melkites, asking, so there was veneration of post-schism saints from the Orthodox Church that would otherwise be considered heretics by the Roman Catholic Church. I just thought that was interesting because my godfather's given name is actually a Roman Catholic saint. That's not an Orthodox saint. Let's just say in the real world, things aren't always as cut and dry as maybe we would like for them to be. But yeah, I think that's why I'm going to wrap up. Thanks again, everybody, for joining us. And until next time, I want to wish you all peace in Christ.